Hey friends out there, Rob here. Today I want to talk about the Instantkon RF70. This great camera shoots Instax wide film, is fully manual, and has several smart features to make your life easy. It has an aperture that goes from f5.6 all the way down to 22, and shutter speeds from bulb all the way up to 1/500th of a second. It can sync with flash, external flash that is, and has a self-timer. We're going to talk about it now. Let's have a look at the camera again, as you saw, just like that. All the way around. I've got a prototype version, which means that I've been using this camera ever since about 6 months before its release. This prototype version right here, prototype A, went to the United States and went to 3 or 4 different YouTubers before it ended up in my hands, and I got to keep it. So thank you so much, Mint Camera, Gary, all you guys, I appreciate it. I've been using this camera and enjoying it for years, and did include it as part of the type of work I would do professionally when needing to get a nice Instax photo album for my brides and grooms. So, with that in mind, let's talk to you about how I use it today. There are some differences in my unit than the production units that you will see, most of them having to do with the back door and a little bit of the metering, which is updated based off of information that Mint Camera received from guys like myself and other YouTubers and things that were people that were reviewing it. Before we talk about all that, or when those things pop out and I think about them, I'll make sure to call them out to you. But I absolutely love this camera. Let's give it a little look-see as we walk around. We won't open the door just yet. We'll become familiar with this beautiful camera first. This camera is a big camera, but it folds down nice and slim, easy to hold in your hand. It's about the length of the SX70, but it's a little bit thinner, or a little bit fatter, I should say. It also has a glass lens on here. I forget how many elements, maybe 3 elements or 5. I don't recall. However, I do know that it is a glass lens, and it extends open through the use of a bellows and a hinged system. More on that in just a minute. Now, when we look at the front, we see where our lens comes from. We've got our viewfinder and then our split image rangefinder windows right here. As we turn over to the side, we have our strap lugs on the back. This is one of the first places that you'll see something different than my unit than you'll have on yours. Not that you would notice, but Mint spent quite a bit of time re-engineering the back door because of just the plastic apparently on the original units may have been a little bit too thin, and they gave some additional structure to this. I have to have a little piece of gaff tape on mine in order to keep it closed, and it was that way pretty much ever since I got it, mainly because the film caused the back door to warp. This is not something that you will have on a new unit, which is why I'm pointing it out. It's nice to see that when camera manufacturers pair with people that actually use the cameras, they get this kind of feedback before they go into production, which means you get a better product overall. Now that we've got it right here, I wanted to give you a nice shot of that inside bellows, and we'll open that up in a minute and show you the aperture as we go through. Turning on to, oh, let's continue here. Let's not go anywhere. Also, another place where mine differs is my 9-segment LCD display right here is losing a little bit of its gusto, which means some of the segments don't work, but this will tell you when you have film in, how much film is left, if your package is empty, and how much battery you have. Looking up at the very big window, this is our viewfinder, and it has markings that will also tell you where your center lines are so that you can adjust for parallax and frame properly. We also now have our split image rangefinder. Now what happens with the split image rangefinder, it takes the image you see here and keeps it stationary, and it superimposes the image that comes from this window as a lighter ghost image. As you rotate the focus, it will bring the ghosted image on top of your permanent image that you're seeing through focusing right there, and then what you will have is a properly focused image. So what you do is you just adjust the ghost image over top. And it does this in a small square patch in the center of the rangefinder view, which also corresponds to roughly the center of your field of your viewfinder up top. Now, it sounds a little difficult if you've never used a rangefinder before, a split image rangefinder, but the reality is it's very, very simple. Sometimes people don't like that these two windows are separate, meaning they would prefer for it to be more like-alike so that the split image rangefinder is in the same window as the viewfinder. However, that just wasn't possible here, and I have not found any of this to be a difficulty when framing my shots. Moving on to the other side, right over here, we've just got our nice grip, and then we're back around to the front. We're going to talk about the bottom for a moment. Just want to let you know this is where your batteries go, 2 AA batteries, and then a lens-centered tripod mount, which is always appreciated. Check that out. Moving over to the top, let's talk about what we have. Of course, the name, the fact this is a prototype. This is where our film ejects from, that slit right here. We also have a flash. This flash is really cool. When we push that button and pop it up, the flash extends forward. This is a forward-facing flash, but the flash also is good for up to about 2 meters, maybe 2.5 meters, and it will be brighter the furthest you focus, and it will be dimmer the closer you focus, which is something you want your flash to do. You don't want your flash to be completely bright at your closest focus because it will totally blow out your subject. Now, that being the case, the flash is a completely automatic flash, which is something to know. If you want to use the flash, you have to pop the flash up. If you don't want to use it, you push it down. As simple as that. Moving over here, I want to talk about this nice lever. If you guys have seen my other videos, or if you are familiar with the Fujifilm Instax Mini EVO, you'll know that they have a film eject lever, very similar to this one. I want to point out the fact that Mint Camera did it first. So Mint Camera had the film eject right there, and it is so cool to take your shot and then just do like that and have your film eject. It feels real nice. So the film eject lever works great. I've taken probably 100 packs of film on this over the lifetime of using it, plus however many shots were taken before, and I have had no problems with this film eject lever or the film ejecting, no issues there. When we talk about the film eject lever, we've got to talk about one more thing, which is the shutter button. The shutter button is a threaded shutter release, which is really cool. You can use a threaded shutter cable to release the button, and it is a 2-position button. It has a halfway detent, not because of autofocus, but because you may want to double press to do something like turn on the self timer. Once you have to press and then double press from there for the full press, the self timer will be enabled, and then you press the button and it will go off in about 10 seconds. If you want to just take your photo, you can still half press or full press. The fact that this button right here is double function has never caused me to miss a shot or anything. I just think it works very well. So the electronics that determine what our human action is based off of 2 different types of inputs on one button has been put together very nicely. Okay, let's now talk about this beautiful wheel right here. This wheel does a lot of stuff. First of all, it's our off position. And then we've got 3 auto modes: automatic, automatic +1, and automatic -1. From there, we've also got a bulb mode, and then we have a rear shutter sync with flash, which is really nice. So if we want to do a rear flash sync, we just turn this on, and it will be in an auto mode for that to happen, but it's really nice. So your auto modes and off are all in red. Other than that, we've got the rest of our shutter speeds that go all the way from 1 all the way up to 1/500th of a second, which is really nice. Now, I don't recall what the manual says about this camera's sync speed specifically for flash, but I've had no problem syncing off-camera flash with this using the PC Sync connection right here, which is the connection smaller than 1/8 that goes to either a round PC Sync X-Sync connector to plug into a flash or another smaller than 1/8 inch jack. You can find these. I forget the designation for what that is, but they're just a couple dollars online. Okay, so we're still talking about the flash. I have used that connection to sync with off-camera strobes through a strobe or through a command unit, and it works great, just like what you would expect. However, because we have a xenon flash here, you could just as easily sync wirelessly using the light from the xenon flash to the photoreceptor in an S1 or S2 mode. You'd really want S1, I think. In any event, when we open up the front of this camera, which is where all the good stuff happens, we actually see we've got this big, beautiful lens right here, and we have our focusing lever. Notice that it's got a nice detent for your thumb. This works really well when you're holding the camera and your thumb can fit right in there. Kind of hard for me to show you here, but you get what I'm saying. Anyways, you can see everything focuses and the lens extends in order to make that focus happen, which means that when you want to close the camera, you need to make sure that you focus back to infinity before you close the camera. Otherwise, it won't close properly, and you could actually damage the mechanism altogether, not just the hinge, but the lens itself. When we want to change our aperture, we do so just by rotating this little ring. We've got f22 all the way up to 5.6 in one-stop increments. So at 5.6, 6.7, 8, 11, 16, and 22. Those are our only choices, no half stops. Since we're here, I want to take a moment to put the camera on bulb and show you the back of the camera as we have it open so you can see what the flash or what the apertures look like. There we go. So I'm going to open it up right now for you. We're on bulb, f5.6, and there we go. You should have also seen the flash light up because we had the flash on, and we've got that big wide aperture. Now that that wide aperture is open, I'm just stopping down 5.6, 6.7. Now we're at f8, f11, f16, and f22. Okay, I'm gonna go back to f5.6, and I'm gonna push the flash down to turn it off, and I'm gonna come over here so that you can see 1 and 15th, 1/15. Now we're gonna go 1/60th, 1/500th. I'll bet you won't even see it. Did you even see it? Did it twice there, just for you. Now that you've seen how that works, you should also have a really great appreciation for the inside bellows of this camera and what Mint has been able to do. I've got a pack of film here we're going to talk about in just a minute, but as you can see, the film would go just like that, and your film is exposed here, although it's backwards. This is the viewing area. It's the back side of the film that's actually exposed. Boom. And it goes like that. Anyway, time to close it up, turn it around, and talk about how we get great shots with this beautiful camera. Oh, how could I forget? Before we go anywhere else, let's actually talk about the neutral density filters. So one of the things I love about using this camera, Mint created a whole series of neutral density filters for this camera in D2 and D4 and D8, which is just a couple of stops, 1, 2, and 3 stops, and here we have them. I like in D8 plus F8, which makes this great. Now, one of the reasons that I enjoy using this camera so much is because of the ability to use neutral density filters and have full manual control. This means I have many more environments in order to photograph in to get the type of photos that I want. So it just extends my exposure options. I'm gonna take that ND8 off for now. Okay, one more final. Okay, this is the Mint TL70. Notice I've got a neutral density set of filters on here as well. This is the original TL70. I got this back around 2017, maybe 2016. I forget exactly when. However, one of the things that people talk about with this camera was the difficulty when using the auto modes. It's a fully automatic camera. It's aperture priority only, f5.6 all the way up to f22 on Instax Mini film. We'll talk about Instax Mini and show you comparison here in a minute. I found a way to kind of game the system or to understand how the automatic metering was working in a way that would produce relatively consistent images all the time, and it became a very popular series. I called it my roll reviews. I did probably 30 different rolls over 300 individual films teaching people how to use this, and talked about my process on Mint Camera's TL70 Tech Talk podcast or videocast or live streams. There were a myriad of different ones. So I had a great relationship with them, specifically with this camera and how we use the camera. The way this camera meters is not how the RF70 meters. If you're used to the camera metering and you're worried about using the automatic modes because of an experience with the TL70 original, not the new 2022 TL70 Plus, but the original TL70, then let your fears be put aside, because during the entire testing phase that Mint was going with this camera, they wanted to make an automatic photo system, an auto exposure system that worked really, really, really well. And so they took information and input from people all over the world. And I remember talking with Gary about the type of attention to detail that they put through this system. And he was talking about how he would talk to different photographers from around the world, and he realized that light is so much different all over the place. For example, the way that I use the camera here in Virginia Beach is very different than the way someone might use the camera in Hawaii, or even someone in the Netherlands, and someone in Great Britain, things like that, and even Hong Kong. And so he was able to use that information and the exposure information that we got from those photos. We kept logs and helped send that to them, at least I know that I did, to create a much better exposure system. And that's one of the reasons that I can take pictures like this with this camera on auto. Check that out. That's a great shot. We'll talk about this in just a second a little bit more. My point here is to talk to you about the exposure system for metering, and I find that it works great with this camera. So let's talk about those photos. This is the type of image that you can expect to get on auto from this camera. This isn't exactly how you would use the camera all the time. I expect most people would want to use manual, but I wanted to show you images that were taken using auto. And I've got a few that are and aren't. They come from different packages, but I want to share with you, this is the type of thing that you can get just great shots out and about. And it doesn't even end there. We've got this one right here, kids in the front yard having a good time. Nice shots. Sometimes when you go and start working on manual exposure, you can kind of overexpose the image. That happens quite a bit. But the nice part about the metering system when you're in auto is that, you know, if you're choosing to use something outside of that, then you can at least say that the issues that you're going to have with focus or with exposure are your own issues, which means it's very easy to get good at using this camera very, very quickly. I love the colors of this camera. And when we talk about this, let's check this out. This wide image right here as compared to this Instax Mini image, right? There's quite a bit more real estate on the film medium itself, which means you can really show a lot more detail. And I absolutely love it. Everything from the blues in the skies all the way down to the detail in the face. And when we get into the Instax wide format, there's also enough space on the film in order to show quite a bit more detail like we talked about. Normally with Instax Mini film, I don't generally do multiple person shots like this because it just becomes so small. It's hard to see the individuals on the actual picture itself. But here with Instax Wide, I think it works great. We're gonna go through a couple more, but I'd like to share with you some. This is one of my son and a pro tip that I'll give you right here. You can reuse the film cartridges as film holders like I'm doing here. So this is my little boy at Sal's Pizza. I think this was a couple years ago. It looks like this one was on 2021, and my son's grabbing some chow there. You can check that out. I shot this in manual, and I was looking to kind of blur the background out as much as is possible. I'm pretty sure I was at f8 plus ND8 because that's pretty much where I am. But that doesn't really matter so much. I think it doesn't matter because you're going to see these images are beautiful images no matter what we look at. Even this one right here, which is a little bit dark, but think about photographing in bright, harsh, contrasty light with the sun on one side and a lot of shadow on the other. Now, if you do want to mess your photo up, you can do that by not focusing properly. You see this one's a little bit out of focus, but still a pretty shot. And even the flash only from the camera indoors looks great. Check that out. Now, as we continue, let's take some more and just show you how we use this camera, or you could use this camera out and about. So I don't mind putting this in the water at the beach. Of course, I'm careful not to get it wet. I don't submerge it, but look at that. Beautiful motion blur on the wave, no motion blur on my son. I would have liked to have given a little more headroom at the top of the picture for him, but I was doing a lot. But my attention was split on several different things at one time, and so I'm happy with this shot no matter how it came out. Of course, I was being careful not to get the camera wet as much as I could, but I was also in the water as well. I'm a little bit of adventurous when it comes to stuff like this. You may not want to. Once again, an auto mode camera. Check this out. This is probably an auto +1 exposure, but it just looks absolutely great. Although a little bit blown out, sometimes I play around with that auto exposure mode, and I found that on this camera, even though I like ND8 plus f8, man, it's just nice to use auto. I've also used some black and white film here, and I think it's really neat to look at the film specifically in this larger format with the base of the film, the memo area, off to an unusual side. Normally it'd be at the bottom, right? But check that out, it's pretty cool. Again, we're down at the Virginia Beach fishing pier taking pictures of the kids, and this is just on kind of like a gloomy day, you know? But the colors are beautiful, nice, vibrant, and bright. These are all several years old, and they still look great. Now, if you want to take a picture in portrait mode and you want to have it close up like this, be careful of that parallax. Because the rangefinder and the viewfinder is off-centered from the lens, you can have some substantial parallax when closer. So just make sure you're taking that into account, which means angle your lens or offset your viewfinder image to the left a little bit. That's all it'll take to clear this up, but it does take some practice. Again, beautiful shots even on the black and white Instax wide film, and the camera just does a great job. One of the things I really like about the lens on this camera is how it renders detail and color. The clarity is excellent, the detail is high, and the color is warm, which gives us nice blue skies without the whole image feeling cool. That's a very nice thing. Because Fujifilm Instax wide film, or all the film, is a daylight balance film, this lens of the Mint Instacon RF70 really pairs well to provide a beautiful image. Here's another example of a beach image with that beautiful warm color set. This is something that sometimes even on a Fujifilm Instax wide camera or a Fujifilm branded camera, you'll find that although you get a blue sky, you might have a cooler toned image even on the same film with the same kind of daylight balance. All of that comes down to the coatings on the lens and the optics of the lens. Because this is a glass lens, and it's not polycarbonate, and it's got different coatings on it, you get a much more true to life warm image, and it's one of the things I absolutely love about using this camera. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Here's my kids giving me some big muscles as we go out there. This is a couple of years ago, but still, you know, just to be able to take this camera out, look at them, focus, take the camera, and take the picture, just makes using something like this a lot of fun. Here's one of the restaurants down in Virginia Beach. Too cool. Now, everything you saw up to this point has pretty much been taken outside during summer. Now we're looking at an image taken in fall. Notice how the light changes for fall, and we've got some of that changing here as well. This is on I think it's Hunt Club Farms, and at Hunt Club Farms they have all these different little areas. They're set up outside where you can pick your own pumpkins, not off the vine, and they have hay bales and all kinds of stuff, and they look like little scenes and settings. So this is outside with one of those little scenes in the background. And this is the petting farm at Hunt Club Farms. Here's another shot from Hunt Club Farms that kind of gives that example of an outside scene. And this is a nice wide shot with that full scene. Notice all the nice detail in there. Looks real pretty. And I think I'm going to end it with this shot right here of me. I actually used this in one of my videos where I'm talking about how to use external flash. So we set up 2 or 3 external flash with this camera in order to get this shot. And it's taken close to nighttime. And you can see I'm lit up. And the background is kind of lit up, not so much, it's a little bit darker. That video was made years ago. You can go check it out. Maybe I'll put a link in it somewhere, but lots of fun and just the ability of playing around using external flash with the camera natively, because the camera is designed to do that. Do I like this camera and would I recommend it? Absolutely. If you like shooting the Instax wide format film, then I don't think you've got anything better as a choice because of all of the manual features as well as the smart and automatic features that are in there, and then that just produces really, really pretty images. I just don't think you can get a better Instax wide camera today. Now, Instax wide film is expensive, and this camera is expensive. So if you wanted to cut one of those costs a little bit, you could choose something like the SQ70, which is the same format but on square film. And the square film costs a little bit less, and you can find better bundle deals and multiple packages of film for less on Amazon and things like that. And speaking about this, if you're going to buy film, you can buy it on Amazon, and you can buy it in Best Buy or wherever you want and not be worried about it, because Instax film seems to hold up quite a bit better, not just over time, but in storage and handling than Polaroid film does currently. When you buy Polaroid film, I'm much more likely to buy Polaroid film straight from Polaroid, where I know it's been kept in the proper handling conditions until I've gotten it, rather than just sitting on a store shelf. That could fluctuate in temperature, because those temperatures can change how the film develops when you get it, and you have no way of knowing that. That doesn't keep me from buying Polaroid film on the shelf or off the shelf from Best Buy. It's just something I take into account when I buy it. If I have time to plan, I plan ahead, I buy the Polaroid film, and I store it properly. So there you go. We've got this camera, the Mint Instancon RF70. It's one that I absolutely enjoy. I hope that you have enjoyed hearing about how I've used the camera and picked up a couple pro tips along the way. Guys, I'm Rob. I'll catch you all on the flip side. Bye for now.